Hey, Mark Fly, your Big Coach here today. Again, I am with Jim Pillans from the Small Business Development Center. This is a follow-up video to one that we did before. If you haven't seen that yet, make sure you check that out. There's been some developments, and also Jim has some really great information that he would like to share with us. So Jim, if you want to introduce yourself, and then you can take it from there.
Okay, thank you, Mark. My name is Jim Pillans. I'm the director of the Brazos Valley Small Business Development Center. We're located in the Bryan College Station area. Our network is throughout the country. There's about 1,000 small business development centers scattered throughout the country. And we all do basically the same things. We offer free confidential consulting service. We never charge for what we do, and whatever our clients tell us and give us is held in strict confidence. We don't share that with anyone, and we never recommend that they purchase anything that we benefit from. The reason why we're able to offer a free service is that we're sponsored on the federal side by the SBA, and then each one of the 1,000 centers has to find someone in their local area to support them. Our funding partner here is the Brazos Valley EDC. Most SBDCs are sponsored by a college or university. But if you're in a different area than the Bryan College Station area and you wanted to find a SBDC near you, if you will just go to our national website and Google America's SBDC, there'll be a spot there that you can put in your zip code and they'll tell you the nearest SBDC near you to help you.
We'll provide that link here on the content of the video as well.
Okay. And so what would you like me to talk about?
Well, so there's been some developments. So from a personal side, I always like to put some of my personality into this. I wish it was a really good story to tell, but we did submit all of our paperwork for everything. As you know, a lot of you know, my wife and I have a furniture store, and so we submitted all that. Nothing has come through yet, and then we heard in the news that the funds ran out rather quickly, as was to be expected. In fact, you even said that in the last video. So what I want to really reiterate to everybody is perhaps, and you can shed some light on this, I think there's a feeling of dismay. My first thought, as many of you might have also felt if you submitted your paperwork, well, like, what do I do now? So that's where I'd like to pick that up. What can the small business owners do now if they've already submitted, or even if they haven't? Do they give up because they've heard the funds aren't there, or what do you suggest?
So there's three basic programs. In the first program, if you have a current SBA loan, those loans have been forgiven for 6 months. So contact your bank, make sure that they are aware of that, and things should be automatic. But you want to contact your bank and say, hey, I have an SBA loan, and I understand that part of this stimulus program forgives all payments, principal and interest, for the next 6 months. So that's the first thing you need to do. There are two basic loan programs. One is the disaster loan program directly through the SBA, and it's called the EIDL loan program. And you'll have to go to the SBA website and apply online for this program. It ran out of money as well. So it is not only a loan program, but it is also a grant program. So when you fill out the very simple form, you don't tell the SBA how much money you need. You fill out the simple form, and then they will get back to you to let you know what you qualify for, if you qualify. But when you fill out the paperwork, you can get up to $10,000 grant that never has to be paid back. And it's geared basically $1,000 per employee that you have. What we are seeing is that the people who applied for this loan, which came out in earlier this month, they are receiving some of their grant money, or they're receiving the grant money from the EIDL program, but the SBA does not contact the individual to say you are receiving this amount of money. It shows up in their checking account. Mm-hmm. The big question is, well, does the SBA have my loan application? If so, are they working on it? And right now, the only way to check that is through the customer service website, through the SBA website. And you can assume that if they gave you a grant, they're working on the loan. If you have not received a grant, I would contact customer service and make sure that you filled out the documents that were current and make sure that it's being worked on. If you filled out the documents, you received a loan number. If that loan number starts with a 2, you need to go back in and resubmit your documents because those were the old documents that did not have the grant application. You will not lose your spot in line, but you need to fill out the new documents, and then the 2 documents will combine in moving forward. But if you received your grant, the SBA is working on it. When they first came out with the program, they said it would take 4 to 6 weeks for that program to let you know what funding was available. And so I don't have any updates on that time frame, other than just know there's 30 million small businesses in the U.S. And everyone is hurting just like you are.
Indeed.
Yep.
That was, if I could interject here real quick, Jim, an interesting note. So we did, just so everybody knows this actually does happen, we did receive a deposit of X amount of dollars into the business account. Wasn't quite sure what it was, did some checking, but that I think is super important to know, that I didn't know, is if you did receive a grant, that there's still other things that are in motion. That's not like the end of the trail.
Right.
That's great to know. And I'll make sure to add all the additional information about, you said if the application has a 2, if you want to reiterate that, that's really good information.
Right. And that's just recently come out.
Okay.
The other program that has had a lot of talk and communication about is the Payroll Protection Plan, and known as the PPP plan. That is the loan program that you go directly to your bank and apply for a loan from the bank. And that loan has the features in it that if you spend the money according to what they want you to do, it can turn into a grant. So the way that program works, they will loan you 2.5 months worth of payroll, and you have to prove what your payroll is. And once you receive that amount of money, and it comes fairly quickly, it can be funded within a week or so. If you spend 75% of that money on payroll, and the remaining of the money allows you to pay for rent, for utilities, for interest on other loans and other things, then it becomes a forgivable loan, which turns into a grant. So obviously, grant money is better than loan money. So it has the possibility of turning into a grant. That money that is not turned into a grant is a loan at 1% for 2 years, and you don't have to make any payments for 6 months. The idle loan program I talked about before is a loan program at 3.75%. It can be financed up to 30 years with no payments for a year. But people are really interested in the PPP loan because it can turn into a grant. But I want to emphasize that you can and you should apply for both loans. Don't rely on one program saving you and not thinking you can't apply for both. You should apply for both.
So it'd be safe to say, even though we've heard the news that the funds have run out, I know there's some motions in Congress to get more of that funding. Submit so that you don't lose your place in line. Sounds like a very key item. A couple questions came to mind. So on the status of the loans, I know you can go in and kind of find out that information. Is that the same with the PPP as well? Is there a way to see your status? Has it been, I know that for ourselves, we called the bank and it just didn't get submitted for whatever reason. But is there a way that they can follow up on that PPP specifically?
Yes. So the way to follow up on the PPP is just like you suggested. Call your banker and they will say, yes, it's been approved by the SBA, and they'll give you an amount of money, or that it's in the queue, meaning that it made it into the SBA system and they've got everything that they need, but the funds ran out of money before them. Or the bank will tell you it just didn't have time to process. And there are many applications that are sitting in the banks now waiting to be processed. And I'm anticipating that whenever the funds are available and Congress approves them, both funds will probably run out the first week, especially the PPP funds. So as a business owner, you need to do everything that you can do today to make sure that your loan application is sitting in line, ready to be processed. Here in my local area, I contacted 5 banks today. None of the banks are taking any outside loans from other people who are not current customers of theirs. So what does that mean? That means that if you have a banking relationship, you ought to contact them and make sure that your PPP loan is where it should be and that it's in line to be processed. I believe if I was a business owner and my loan had not been processed yet, if I had another banking relationship, and many businesses have more than one account, I would contact that bank and try to apply for the PP loan with them.
That was actually, I'm sorry, that was actually my next question, Jim, was we, like many of us, we do have separate loans, whatnot, and separate banks. I think we may have just assumed to just go to the primary bank that we do most of our stuff with, but you're saying, no, go ahead to each of your banks and submit the same thing?
Right, submit the same thing. And each bank may have a little bit of a different twist on the amount of information that they need. And so you want to make sure that your loan is submitted with everything that they need. There will not be enough time if you submit an incomplete application for the bank to get back to you and say, we need such and such documents. In my opinion, the money will be gone by then. And the SBA has a way, again, that can, if you're submitting to a bank, to more than one bank, has a way to match those up. And if you've been approved by one bank, it will not allow the second bank to input your information. Okay. So they have a way to self-contain that. Then I would also tell you that if you don't have another banking relationship, there are some places online that are accepting PPP loans. So PayPal and Intuit, QuickBooks people, are places that you can go online and submit applications as well.
Very good. One thing I thought about too, because I've heard you say it a few times, and you did say it in the previous video that we did, that the the idle loan is for 6 months. Well, not for 6 months. It's forgivable for 6 months. What is that? Where does that start from?
You don't have to make payments for a year with the idle loan. And so the idle loan starts whenever I believe starts whenever you get money.
Okay, that was the key, because I had heard some conflicting stories on that it started on a specific date when they announced it, but it sounds like it's from whenever you're submitting.
And it may be. I'd have to go back and search.
Okay, understood. All right, great information, Jim. Is there anything else that you can add that might be helpful in this?
The only thing I would like to tell your listeners is that during this very stressful time, cash is king. And if you've been in the construction business for a while, you've seen the roller coaster in previous downturns. And it becomes a domino effect. So when you have someone that doesn't pay you, that means that you can't pay somebody, and the whole industry gets in trouble in a hurry. As a small business owner, one of the hardest things to do is to turn business down. And if you have someone that you've been doing business with that is slow pay and you have to knock on the door every time to get paid, now's the time to possibly let somebody else have that business. Because if you do work for them and you don't get paid, you're in a lot worse position then than what you are today. So take a look at your expenses. Try to cut as much as you can to save. We don't know how long this is going to last. And I would just tell you that try to be protective of whatever dollars you have now and those that are coming in the future.
That's some really good advice. So sometimes what looks like it might be a good idea, I think now we need to really second guess what we're doing, go back to the drawing board, make sure that that client is, or that project or whatever the case is going to be relevant, because like you said, slow pay has always been, it's a known thing in the construction industry, but now is the best time to really look at those and strategically place yourself in a better position, I think. And I think let's be honest, it might be better to not have any of those jobs than to take all of those jobs, if that's the case. Because like you said, it could put you in a worse position with your suppliers and your other vendors and so on and so on. And it just, like you said, it has that domino effect. So
Right.
fantastic advice. Jim, as always, I certainly appreciate your time. I can't imagine being in your shoes right now. You must be working 8 days a week, 25 hours a day, I'm assuming, which you're not supposed to. I know that, but I appreciate everything that you do, as I've said before, that you've done for us personally, and that you do for the community, and as well for all the people that this will reach as well. If anybody needs any additional information, they can feel free to contact me and I'll get them to the right area. We'll have the links here as well. But Jim, thank you again so much. I certainly appreciate your time, and hope all is well with you. You're safe and healthy, and your family as well.
It's been my pleasure, and I hope you and your listeners stay safe. And hopefully we'll all come out of this in a few months and learn from it, and hope it never happens again.
Indeed, indeed. Great. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.